You can now create consistent characters, consistent scenes, and tell a full AI story from just one single prompt. This is what's possible when you combine the right prompt with the right mix of tools. AI storytelling with multiple camera angles that transitions seamlessly from frame to frame on a level that can compete with Hollywood. Whether you're an AI filmmaker, artist, or creator, I'll show you exactly how I use the one prompt method to generate complete AI story sequences. Step 1 is to generate the images of our characters. But instead of generating just a single image, we'll actually be generating an entire 3x3 image grid with 9 total shots of our character using one prompt all at the same time. Each one of these individual image grids is a shot of the same consistent character in the same consistent environment, seen from a different camera angle, which is going to let us create a full cinematic AI story sequence with this character inside of it. So what prompt did I use to do this? So I was scrolling on X and I came across this post that shows how you can generate multiple shots of the same character in an image grid using Google's Nano Banana Pro image model. If we take a look at the prompt, it's pretty long and complicated. So what we're going to do is break this prompt down into all of its individual components. In order to use a prompt like this effectively for our own purposes, we need to actually understand how it works. First, it starts off with a cinematic 3x3 grid presenting multiple camera angles. That's going to tell the AI we want an image grid. Then it's followed up with the description of the subject and the location. Next up is a list of all the camera angles. Then it's followed up with some style keywords. And it's followed up with consistent subject appearance across all frames with some other style keywords behind it. Now, the parts that I've highlighted in blue are the parts that we're going to keep the same when we use this prompt. And I'll show you how to modify this prompt to actually generate a full story sequence of images instead of just a set of different camera angles. Now, there's one more line I actually need to add to this prompt, which is images stacked together with no grid lines and no borders and no text. If you don't put in this line, it's going to often generate these images where there are these thick borders, also text on the screen. We want to avoid that for our purposes. And by modifying and using that prompt format, I was able to generate this 3x3 image grid of my samurai character with a very, very cinematic looking visual style. And the way I modified it was just by changing the subject and the location and the style keywords. In the subject, I described the samurai, the clothing he's wearing, the environment that he's in. And then in some of the style keywords, I changed it a little bit because I don't want that blue light. I told it to have natural lighting, muted earthy tones, and some soft fog. And I kept all the parts of the prompt that describe the image grid the same. Here's another image I generated of a character in the desert using the same exact technique. To generate these images, I used the Nano Banana Pro AI image model inside this tool called Design. To use it, you can create a new project and then find the text to image generator. Inside here, we'll need to switch this image model to Nano Banana Pro. So select that. And then I put in the prompt for my samurai character. Make sure you turn off this prompt improver. This thing actually will mess up the way your images look. So make sure that's turned off. We also want to use 4K resolution images. Because we're generating an image grid, we want to make sure each individual image inside that grid has the maximum size and the amount of pixels that it can work with. Now also set the aspect ratio to 16:9. And you'll get some pretty clean looking shots using this. There are a few issues you're going to run into that you need to be aware of. Number one is going to be the character consistency. For a lot of these, when you look at the entire image grid as a whole, it looks pretty good. But if we're zooming a little bit on the faces, you'll see that they don't actually look that similar. These two images of the character actually look a little bit different. I think in this one, her eyes look a little bit closer together actually. And in this image, her eyebrows look like they arch up a little bit more. So let's see how to generate more consistent looking characters like this image grid right here. If you look at the different shots of the character, their faces look way more consistent compared to the other image grid. So what I'm going to do is actually crop out the face of the character from the image grid to use it as a reference to generate a new image grid. What we'll do is upload her into the canvas. Then inside the chat editor, it'll let us generate a new image grid using this character. And I'm going to use that same prompt format that I showed earlier. And then make sure to set the resolution to 4K again with a wide horizontal aspect ratio. Now, if we take a look at the image and the results that it gave us, the character actually does look very, very consistent in all of them. You can also use this technique to generate image grids with pictures of your own characters. So I had this reference image from a Star Wars inspired character, and using the same image reference technique along with the image grid, I was able to create these full-on image grids of her seen from multiple different camera angles. Now, the second problem you're going to run into when using this image grid is when you generate really small faces of people. Here's a shot of the character leaning against her car. And if we zoom in a bit, it really doesn't look like anything. It's just like a blur with no details on her face at all. AI does struggle a lot when generating small faces of people. And when we create an image grid where the resolution for each individual image is even smaller, it's going to struggle even more. So to deal with this problem and generate a bit more of a lifelike looking face on this character, we're going to go back to the image editor. And this time I'm going to upload two image references, one of a close-up on her face and one of her leaning against her car with a really blurry looking face. We'll put both of these two into the chat editor. And then inside the prompt, I'm going to re-describe the scene, this time in a way that hopefully is going to make her face look a bit more detailed and pronounced. So I'll tell it to create a front view showing the woman leaning against the car. And if we combine these two things together and tell it to give us a front view of her, it should be able to generate a face that has a bit more details on it. So here's the result it gave us. Again, if we zoom in a bit more, it is slightly more lifelike. I mean, it's not perfect. You can tell that it's AI generated. It doesn't quite look like a real person, but much better than what we had earlier. So how do we actually create images that tell a story sequence? So far, we've gotten really cool images from a bunch of different camera angles showing our character, but I want to adding a bit more of a story or an adventure for him. Something like this, where we have a samurai entering an abandoned village, discovering that the place has been ransacked, and then encountering a group of bandits that he's going to have to fight. So we'll need to modify the prompts that we've been using just a little bit. If we go back and look at the prompt, there's this line here which tells it all the different frames it wants to generate, the close-up shot, the medium shot, over the shoulder shot. What we'll need to do is actually modify this so that instead of just giving us camera angles, it also tells the AI to generate a specific part of the story inside each image frame. The way that I did this is I went to ChatGPT and told it to rewrite the part of the prompt that says each frame shows a distinct shot. And instead of different camera shots, I want a list of images for a storytelling sequence of the samurai encountering the abandoned village and also the group of bandits. And then underneath that, I'm just going to paste in that same prompt I used earlier to generate the samurai. And what ChatGPT does is that it modifies the prompt so that instead of just showing the different camera angles, it gives us a sequence of 9 different image frames that tell the full story. So all we have to do is copy and paste this same exact prompt. And I just pasted that modified prompt back into Nano Banana Pro, this time with all of the different individual frames. So let's see if I can go and actually generate a full-on AI animation of the story sequence. Now, unfortunately, like I said before, sometimes the faces don't look that great. You can use the image reference method I used earlier to try to enhance how the faces look a little bit. I use this upscaling app called Topaz Gigapixel, which has this face recovery feature that lets you go in and use AI to add a little bit more sharpness and details to the faces. So if we compare the before and after, here's before, after. Actually, it does add a little bit more detail to its face. Still does look a little bit AI generated, not quite as realistic as I would have hoped, but it is sharper and more detailed. So the next thing I'm going to do is to actually use AI video to animate the full story sequence and bring it to life with the character carefully walking into this village where he's going to have to fight for his life. So still inside design, I'll use the AI video generator. So this is going to let us actually animate all those image frames we collected earlier. So I put in the image frame, I just enhanced using the AI upscaler. Then I'm going to describe what I want him to do. So let's say the man cautiously walks through the doors. Then we can choose image model. The new Clean 2.6 is pretty good at these types of cinematic videos. So I'm going to use that. And it actually does also generate sound effects. And if we generate the video, it'll show the character in the image frame following the prompt walking through those doors. You can animate some more advanced motions. So this time I prompt for him to walk forwards and to be surrounded by mist while he puts his hand on the hilt of his sword. Here's another shot I have of the bandits surrounding him and brandishing their weapons aggressively. So let's see what happens when you actually take that image grid method and animate it into a full story sequence. Now, if you want to deep dive into all the different camera angles and camera movements that you can animate using AI, go watch this tutorial right here.